A Just Us Lesbians production. I think it's a common misconception that podcasters like me love to talk. Maybe it's true in some cases, but I don't think so in my case. In fact, take this podcast as an example. I usually get super quiet because just like you, I'm hearing these stories for the first time. And truthfully, I do get a bit emotional. And as the song goes, by Gloria Estefan, words get in the way. You're familiar, you've heard that song. Don't make me sing it because I will. It's true. The words sometimes do get in the way and they escape me. In this episode, that's exactly what had happened. I was just blown away by Elena Guajardo and her two simultaneous journeys. One, with her navigating being a lesbian in her 50s, and the second, the unwavering desire to be a public servant. She was the first openly gay candidate to win a city council seat in 2005. I was quite frankly speechless. But anyway, I do want to stay true to what I had said earlier, that just because I have a podcast doesn't mean I like to talk. So I'm going to cut this short and have you listen to Elena Guajardo and her stories. And you'll hear it right here at your favorite The Taco Stand podcast. Elena, thank you so much for coming to the show. It is such an honor to have someone like you, and I can't wait to get into the story of everything that you wanted to, share with us, and you're willing to share with us. So thank you for taking the time to come to the show.
My honor. I appreciate the invitation. I don't get to say it that often anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes, I have flashbacks, and it's like, this was really interesting. I did it.
Yes. And we'll get to know all of that in this episode of the Taco Stand podcast. Normally, when I start the show, I go with the usual questions of how'd you find out about Jewel, or, what's your coming out story? But for this episode, I'm going to start with, where do you want us to start?
So let me rephrase that this way.
Uh-huh.
To yourself and all the listening audience.
Mm-hmm.
Sit back, relax. I'm going to take you behind the curtain.
There you go.
And you tell me when I begin.
Well, I'm like just getting goosebumps just thinking. Waiting to hear what you're willing to share with us today.
No. It'll be all the truth.
Uh-huh.
But it'll be a unique journey that I took, but our community took.
Yeah.
Once they finally realized, some never realized what I was doing, but I'll tell all that together. So I'm really going to take you behind the scenes. So can I start?
Yeah, let's start.
Okay, so who I am, Elena Guajardo. I was, my mom and dad, I was born and raised in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
Never moved from the city. I love my city.
Yeah.
Literally, I was raised in the back room of my family's grocery store.
Right.
We were on Guadalupe Street, so we were the real west side of the city.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, my family moved from the store. We bought our first house. Mm-hmm. It was in the Woodlawn, Jefferson area. Mm-hmm. I graduated from Jefferson High School. It was called SAC at the time,
right.
San Antonio College. Did my 2 years there, and then went to Austin, UT Austin. Mm-hmm. And I was studying for my bachelor's in business administration and marketing. Mm-hmm. I finished, graduated, and came back to San Antonio. And like every young person, I need a job.
Yeah.
So went knocking on doors, etc. And Southwestern Bell, they picked me up. Mm-hmm. I interviewed with them, and they had a job. And so I was there for 23 years.
Wow.
And the last 3 years that I worked there, I was studying, I took a Lady of the Lake, I was studying social work for my master's in social work.
Okay.
In December of 2000, it was a beautiful month. I got to graduate, walk the stage, and get my master's in social work diploma. Mm-hmm. And they had an early retirement, and I got to retire in 2000.
Wow.
And so what I did after that was what really hit me was the policy making and social activism that social work has. Mm-hmm. And I was just drawn to it more and more. And that's what I started learning, and take our social workers, not only in San Antonio, but in the state when we had conferences. There was 3 of us that we got collaborated, and we did a one-on-one course of how to get politically involved. Mm-hmm. And that's where it stemmed from.
Yeah.
And all I can tell you, it was about the year 2002, 2003, let's say 2002. This small voice came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. When I do social work training, there was a sentence we always said that went, if we are not at the policy table, then someone else is making the decisions for us.
Yeah, yeah.
Footnote that. Mm-hmm. That's very important to me. So literally 2002, 2003, I had 2 journeys going on simultaneously. Mm-hmm. So I saw what the map, and I live in District 7, and at that time, a council person can only have 2 two-year terms. Mm-hmm. So I knew in about a term or so, my councilman was going to be out. Well, he was going to go for a higher office. So it's what we call an open seat. Mm-hmm. So it's like whoever wants to put their name in to maybe be a council person.
Okay.
So there was the opportunity.
Yeah.
So literally, I went to the library, checked out every book on how to do a campaign.
Wow.
It's just me.
Yeah.
And so when there was some type of course or whatever in the area, I went a one-day seminar, blah, 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 took it. So it just kept staying within me.
Yeah, yeah.
I found out how to get a map of the district. Mm-hmm. So I had a friend, I said, you drive, I'm going to show you with the map where we turn. Mm. So I was learning the whole boundaries of the district. Okay. That's how I figured out how big District 7 is.
Yeah. So as someone that's not from San Antonio, where is District 7?
District 7 goes from Woodlawn, Jefferson area, go out, well, I say north from where I'm living, but it's not north. You go past 1604.
Okay.
So take like Culebra and Bandera Road out there, past 1604.
Yes.
It actually kind of butts up to Helotes.
Oh, okay.
So you think of dividing the city 10 ways.
Yeah.
Every part is going to be a big slice of the pie.
Right, right. Okay.
What's unique in District 7, it's a beautiful district, has a lot of history. Mm-hmm. And I'll just say I love my district. Yeah. And I still live there, and I still love it. And
this company that you worked for 23 years,
Southwestern Bell.
Southwestern Bell, is that like a private company?
No, it was the telephone company.
Okay.
It now became AT&T, etc. So that's how. But back in the day, it was called Southwestern Bell.
Gotcha.
And that's when it was like the smaller entities, but then it got monopolized and whatever.
Yes.
And today you'll know it as AT&T, etc.
Got it.
Everything.
But what made you want to run as a councilwoman?
So, again, that thing was, if you're not at the table, someone else is making the decision.
Which is what you've learned.
That has just stemmed in my life because of what I taught. But it is, and that's why I'm saying footnote that.
Yeah.
Because it can be any community.
Right.
It wasn't not just social workers, but anything.
Yeah.
If you're not at the policy table, someone else is speaking for you.
Yeah.
We need to be speaking for ourselves.
Yes, I agree.
So that's what somehow
got implanted.
A small voice. Mm-hmm. And I have nothing political in any of my family. So I came out of so I'm a ghost to everyone.
Yeah, right.
Which was kind of nice at the beginning.
Yeah, right. So it's refreshing. So also one question before you dive in. What made you want to do social work?
This is what happened. I did a lot of therapy for myself. Uh-huh. And then I would we were in cubicles at work.
Right.
And literally what would happen, I'd be working, and I ended as an engineer. They taught me how to be an engineer inside. I would be doing my stuff, and literally people would just walk into my office and just want to sit there for a lit.
And
they say,
just talk.
They weren't talking. They go, so I'm peaceful here. Or sometimes they would say something and I'd answer them back or whatever. And I remember I was with one therapist I was with, and she says, Elena, you see the patterns.
Yeah.
You're just in your own force, but you see the patterns. You need to go get to the degree and open up a shop. And so I thought maybe it's therapy, etc. And basically it was social work. That's what led me. And it was like, you could do your social work degree and so, and you can do counseling, etc. And that's how I became a social worker. I cannot call myself a social worker because I never did the lasting test to do it. I can say I have a master's in social work.
Gotcha. Oh, because there's a test you gotta take.
For credentials, is everything. So I can say I have my master's in social work. But it was the policy and the social activism, political activism to change. When the state legislature would meet, it was like the first thing they come and cut in budgets is anything that has to do with people, social services, etc. And that's where it's like, we need to have a voice at the table, whether it was a writing campaign or call campaign, etc. It's like, this is what's happening. They meet only every 2 years, and if they finalize something, we're stuck with it. Mm-hmm. It's hard to go back. Mm-hmm. They always go anti. They cut things, and it's hard to get that back. So it was like, this is what stayed with me. It's like, where's our voice?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So that's where I continued. Mm-hmm. 2002 and 2003. This is what you're waiting for. Yeah. I can tell you're waiting. It was like, I was on 2 different journeys. One was the voice that said, there's an open seat. You can be at the table. Now, all my, through college and my professional life, I dated men. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I have a cousin that met his life partner in high school, and they're still together. Mm. They're the most successful couple in all my family. Mm. Lovable gentlemen. And when I was at SAC, there was a lady that we became friends, and she got me. I mean, we would have lunch outside at SAC, and we could just talk, and then it was time for class, and we'd say goodbye. She was a lesbian. She had a partner. She had friends, and they just took me as a third wheel. Mm-hmm. That's how I went to my first gay clubs or knew anything gayness or whatever. Uh-huh. But I was just like a fly on the wall. I was just taking it in. No one did anything. No one approached me or anything. It was just, I was just a third wheel and everything, and loved it. And then, which is true to my life, I woke up one day and I went, I'm on the wrong team. That's my language. I'm on the wrong team. Called my cousin, and I said, hey, Carlos, this is what happened. I think I'm on the wrong team. So he and Victor said, hey, this is what we're going to do tonight. Come on over and we'll talk. Yeah. So they brought me some materials. Like there was some publications at the time about in the gay community. Yeah. And they told me like where people meet, etc. So that's where then they said, go off into your journey. Try it out. Go off into your journey. Yeah.
So this was early 2000s?
This is 2002, 2003. Wow. So that's when it all started. So basically the 2 journeys were happening simultaneously. Yeah. So went to an HRC meeting, and when I walked out, 2 other guys and I were on a committee. Mm-hmm. I love these guys today. Yeah. And I became part of Stonewall Democrats, went to Dignity San Antonio, got to meet people, and you will love this part. I went to my first holiday dance, and I was sitting at a table with all ladies. Now, I love to dance. Yeah. I love to dance. So here I am, watching everyone dance. It's a lesbian thing going on. It's all the lesbian holiday dance. And so I looked at one lady and said, I really want to dance. And she said, okay. And so I said, you're number 1. So the next one, you're number 2. You're number 3. So that was my first time learning I'm still learning how to dance with a woman, etc. Yeah. But I'm loving the whole journey now. Yeah. And so there were some clubs. They're still there today, but they're not really functioning like they were back in 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
And I remember, again, I'm on two journeys.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember looking at the dance floor and thinking, I am just learning how to dance with a woman. If I do this, I'm not hiding. We're going to be open.
Mm-hmm.
So when the contents was, I'm learning that this is part of who I am, I thought, okay, I do this. It's going to be public. Who do I need to tell?
Yeah.
So we were at a family gathering. And so I asked my brother and sister to hand back with my sister-in-law. And I said, okay, I have two things to tell you. One, I'm gay. And second, I'm running for city council. and my sister, they were all quiet. And my sister said, what took you so long? And I went, this is a new journey for me. I mean, I'm learning it day by day.
Yeah. And how old were you when you
This was early 50s. Okay. I'm early 50s at that point.
Yeah.
And 49, 50, somewhere. So I wrote a list of who do I need to tell, what friends I needed to tell. I only lost one friend. And I was really close to, he was my parish priest who is now a bishop, Catholic bishop. And I made an appointment with Father Flanagan, or Bishop Flanagan. And I adored him. We were so close. And every time, I'm going to choke up here. Whenever we'd say, even in church, whenever we'd say goodbye, whenever I said, can you bless me? And he'd always give me a blessing. So when I met with him, I said, I have two things to tell you. Yeah. I'm going to run for office. And secondly, I'm gay. And he just looked down and he said, I have one question. Yeah. I said, okay. He says, do you still go to church? Right. I said, yes, I do. He said, that's all I need. Yeah. And so when we said goodbye, I said, can I still get your blessing? And he blessed me. Aww. And so that meant a lot. Yeah. As you can tell. Yeah. Because I truly adored that man. He's passed on, but I went through my list because it was like, I need to tell him because at one day it's going to be public. Yeah, right. So that's my journey there. Oh, at the time, there was a lesbian group and it was called First Wednesdays. Okay. By this point, I had already filed my campaign treasure report. And you have to do that before you can collect a dime, collect a penny, or spend a penny. You have to have a campaign finance report. That goes through City Hall, etc. So I had filed that already and started making little business cards, like a business card that we created some little logo and I'm running for city council. And this is my name. And we started a website, blah, 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 and a phone number. And so every first Wednesday, the lesbian group would assign, we're going to meet here. We're going to meet here. So we had the meetings and there was one first Wednesday and I'm going to every table, introducing myself and passing out my cards. And this one tall lady, now I'm 5'1", so everyone is taller than me. So let's just make that.
Trust me, I know what that feels like.
And so this tall lady, and I'd seen her, she'd seen me before, and she comes over to me, pretty direct and serious. She said, are you really going to do this? I said, yes, ma'am, I'm doing it. And she just looks me sternly. And she goes, you're the perfect one to do it first. She says, you're educated, you're professional, and excuse me to the audience, her words, you don't look like a tool belt dyke. She says, you're perfect. Yeah. And so I always remember that story. So now the campaign starts in January. So this is the summer before the January. Right. And literally, I was going to every neighborhood association meeting, just walking in. I wasn't introducing myself. I was just sitting in the back. Yep. I call this my listening tour. I see. No one knew who I was. So I got to hear freely what was going on. Right. Uncensored. Yeah. And I was taking notes. I had note cards on every neighborhood and what they saw was important, etc. They didn't know who I was. Didn't matter. Because no one's looking at who's going to run for city council yet. Yeah. It doesn't happen until January. Yeah. Yeah. So it was right around November time frame. Two other guys came in the race. Their names are Noel Zuniga and Gerald Lee. Mm-hmm. And they're going to duke it out amongst themselves. Mm. They were already, da-da-da.
Yeah.
And one guy says, Elena, I'm leaving you alone. I'm going after him. I said, you go get him. Yeah. Everything.
Does it really get that dirty?
Oh, it gets really...
Even, you know what I mean? Even
it gets real dirty.
Wow.
So this whole time frame, in the back of my mind, it's like, what do I do with the gay question? Yeah. Because it's like I'm getting more serious. Yeah. And it's like, what people don't realize, I'm a real introvert. Mm-hmm. I am so shy. Yeah. So this is totally out of my comfort zone. And I'm thinking, what do I do with the gay question? Mm-hmm. So with my reference with Stonewall Democrats, I knew politicians. And so I started calling them and for different things. And one of them knew me, and I told him what was happening. Like, I'm going to run, and I'm gay. And he said, whoever this was, and I can't remember, it's like, you need to go contact Denise Parker. Mm-hmm. She's an out lesbian in Houston who is the city comptroller. So she'd won her offices. Right. And she's beloved in Houston. And so I called her office. She called me back. And I told her who I was and what I was going to do. And I said, I don't know what to do with the gay thing. She says, I'm coming to San Antonio. Gave me the date. She says, let's have lunch. Mm-hmm. We had lunch. And I'm probably a babbling idiot at this point going, what do I do with the gay thing? You know, yeah. I don't know what to do. Yeah. And she said, listen, I'm making a call. There's a group called the Gay and Lesbian Victory Fund. It's an amazing group. Mm-hmm. And basically they want to train gay, lesbian, transgender. Now they're gone into transgender, of the whole spectrum. If you want to run for office, we need you at the table. Mm. They have a campaign school. They endorse. They help you raise money, etc. They don't endorse everyone. Right. So it goes through very hard regiment vetting process. Yeah. But they have a school. Mm-hmm. And she says, I'll make a call to them. And because I didn't know them at all. She said, I'll make a call. They'll call you. Yeah. She did. They called me and says, our next school is here. And it was in a short amount of time. New Orleans, get yourself there. You have a seat. Wow. It's a really intense 3-day course. Uh-huh. So intense that they bring the food to the room. Yeah. you do not go out of there except for break and whatever. Right. And it was the A to Z of everything, how to fundraise, etc. And they had one section on the gay thing, the gay question. Yeah. And so they had the presentation, and at the end of the presentation, I still don't know how to answer the question. So the presenter was out taking a smoke break, and so I went over to her and I introduced myself, and I said, I still don't know how to answer this. And she says, give me your notebook. She wrote down something. Footnote that. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, I got it. So the first order of business when I returned is I have to find a campaign manager. Mm-hmm. So again, some of the politicians I knew, I started calling, who do you recommend, blah, blah, blah. Eventually it came to a name someone had given me. He'd run congressional races, state races, and he happened to be in San Antonio, right? Mm-hmm. Called him up, introduced who I was, told him what I wanted to do. He says, okay, let's talk. Came over to my house. We spent over 3 hours. He grilled me on everything. Yeah. Like why, etc., what I knew, etc. And at the end of the 3 hours, he says, okay, now give me the dirt on you. Because if I'm going to research you, if I can find it, they can find it. Yeah. And I said, John, I'm the most boring gay person you will ever meet. The only thing is I'm gay. He says, okay. So he called me up in a couple of days. And he says, I've done finance plan for you. Your race is going to cost $80,000. Oh, my gosh. And I literally lay frozen on my couch for 2 days. Finally got myself off the couch, and I called him up, and I said, John, I put in some money. Some of my friends have pitched in. I can give everything back. Where am I going to get their $80,000? Mm-hmm. And he says, we have to get you back to breathing, and this is what we do. It's like you fundraise, and at that point, candidates don't do it now because everything is online, etc. But there was like donation envelopes. Mm-hmm. So we printed a bunch for me, etc. And basically everyone I ever met gave him a donation envelope. Everyone I ever knew in my life, Victory Fund teaches you. You go, that's your fundraising too. Yeah. That's your first circle. Everyone you ever knew, your family, everyone. I became the $25 candidate. That's the only way I could sleep.
Fund it. Yeah.
Is if I could find 40 people, $25, I just raised $1,000. Yeah. When someone would send me $100, I almost fell off my chair. I mean, this is my language. Excuse me, audience. I'm pimping myself really good because I was out there hardcore and shy little person. Right. But it's like, you want good government. You don't even have to live in the district. Yeah. I want to be a public servant. Would you trust me with $25? So, wow. The race came on, and in January is when we have the filing time frame where anyone who wants to be a city council person or mayor, they file their names. Right. At the close of the period, there were 7 people in District 7. This is what was really interesting. Mid-January, the money people in District 7, the political base, their horse was a guy named Gerald Lee. Mm-hmm. That's who, he was going to be the next anointed. Yeah. Mid-January, Gerald gets a DWI. Oh, wow. It opened everything. Mm-hmm. And political base didn't know what to do because they don't know anyone. Right. And they weren't picking another horse. Mm-hmm. So it was an open field now. Yeah. So here's what's lovable is the people that I met in the gay community, a lot of them still don't know who I am. But I will always remember there's 2 ladies from Dignity, Terry and Sylvia. They said they live in Woodlawn, Jefferson area. We're going to do a fundraiser. We're going to call all our friends. And they called it Migas y Mimosas. They had a fundraiser. I got to introduce myself to them and everything. Yeah. They raised $1,000. Mm-hmm. That was the first money to buy my first yard signs. They bought my yard signs with that fundraiser. Yeah. Tom and Felix, I met them through HRC. He was on part of the HRC committee. Yeah. I told him what I was going to do. Right. And he says, okay. He invited every guy he ever met. His backyard was full of men and a couple of women in between. Yeah. And basically says, she's going to do this. We have to support her. And so they gave me, that's some of the monies I got. I mean, I'm knocking on anyone. Yeah. I mean, I have to raise this money. Yeah. It
is not cheap.
No, it isn't. And it's hard for people to give up money. Mm-hmm. I mean, even now. I mean, but in 2004, it was like, I'm a nobody and you want to run for city council? Who do I know? You know, it's like, you trust me. I want to be a public servant. Mm-hmm. I want to represent you. Mm-hmm. Someone said, you need to go meet Betty Naylor. She's passed on now, but in Austin, she lived right next to the legislature. She was the go-to person for anything that had to be, anything gay mattered, gay, lesbian, etc. Anything state reps wanted a go-to person, it was Betty Naylor. Uh-huh. So they gave me her number. I called her. She says, come up to Austin. Let's chat. It was several hours. She grilled me on everything. We had dinner together. We went and got Sklotsky's and ate them together. And at the end of that evening, she says, I'm going to make some phone calls. Tell anyone that needs to know, you have my blessing. She's passed on, but she was really dear to me. Yeah. So
it takes a village.
It does. So I'm doing all the things. I'm block walking, etc. Doing debates. I got labor endorsements. I don't remember about fire, but police stayed out of it. That's very important. Police stayed out of it. So now we have election night. We have 7 candidates, and no one's going to win outright. You have too many candidates. Yeah. The dream is top 2 vote getters get into the runoff. You have to be top 2. Okay. So election night, there was this lesbian couple that endearing to me. One, Paula and Mary. Paula became our spreadsheet person. She kept all the donations, did the finance report. She did a lot of stuff
in the back. Yeah.
in the background. They had this quaint little backyard. Wasn't large. It was a nice backyard, but very quaint, very serene. And they said, let's do the watch party here. So it was like, bring a yard chair and bring your drink.
Yeah.
We supply hot dogs and whatever, you know. So the watch party was there. People were coming in and everything. We had no idea at the end of the evening. So let me back up. 30 days before election is your first campaign finance report. You have to detail every dollar raised and every expenditure. And everyone at 5 p.m. of that date is looking how much everyone has. I was the top fundraiser.
Wow.
So my manager says, now they're coming after me because you're number one on the leaderboard, financial, they're going to start coming after me. Literally what happened, again, I'm very shy. I would be driving to neighborhood association meetings and my hands would be shaking. I'm driving myself.
Yeah.
Because when's the attack going to hit? It was on my brochures that I would give out. Victory Fund had endorsed me. Stonewall Democrats had it. I mean, it's there. I'm not hiding anything.
Yeah.
But I don't go around saying I'm the gay candidate because streets, drainage, flooding, police, fire, safety, parks, they don't have sexual orientation. It's just, I'm gay, but I want to be your public servant. I want to be your representative.
Yeah.
And my candidates could see the stuff, and I knew they were all talking, but they didn't know what to do with it. So that after those 30 days, it was like at any point it's going to hit. At any point it's going to hit. Election night came. I'm the top vote getter. So now I'm in a runoff.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So the election is held on a Saturday. So that next Monday is our first neighborhood association meeting. My opponent is named Noel Zuniga. Okay. And so our first meeting, you give you 2 more minutes to introduce yourself again and say, hey, I'd love to have your vote again. If I didn't have it before, I want to earn it this next month, etc. And so I did
believe you have to do it twice. You already won the first time.
But now the runoff, now you have only one candidate now. Yeah. So it's like whoever gets one more vote. Yeah. One more vote wins. Wow. So you're after every vote, and it's harder to get people to come vote again a second time. Yeah. That's the struggle. I mean, that's the challenge. So you are like, please come vote again. So I do my 2 minutes. Then Noel comes in. And I didn't catch it, but my manager caught it, and he told me. So I remember him saying, look at our websites. Look at the 2 websites. Look at the agenda. Several times he kept saying agenda. That was code for gay agenda. Okay. So the police, so I'm going to just tell you some stories here. The police did not endorse in the first. They called us and said, we want to meet you. So they went to go to Noel Zuniga's campaign first, and then they were going to come to talk to me. So the gentleman went over there, and then he comes talk to me. And he says, Elena, I'm not going to say anything that you're going to be happy with, but we're still not going to endorse. Yeah. And I said, okay, that's not a problem. You don't want that $500 and the endorsement going to your candidate, your opponent. If no one gets it, it's a good day. Yeah. If I'm not getting it, no one should get it. Yeah. So, but he leans into me. And he says, I was just at your opponent's campaign talking to him. And he is so obsessed. All he talks about is you're gay, your agenda. And so now he's leaning into me. And he says, Elena, how does he know I'm not gay? Secondly, we have men and women that serve our city now in uniform. Yeah. That's a disrespect to them. And he says, third, I don't like that talk. Now he really leans into me. He goes, take him down. And I said, sir, that's what we're working to do. Yeah. And we left. We shook hands and left. And about a week or so later, week and a half later, he calls me on a Sunday and he says, Elena, we've endorsed you and we have a check for $500. Can you pick it up tomorrow?
Wow.
And I said, yes, sir. And he says, you want to know why? And I said, I'm really curious. And he says, we caught him in a lie.
Oh.
And I said, I'm happy to pick up the check.
Yeah.
So I went and got their check. So now I have their endorsement and I can put it in my,
yeah.
all my publications and my anything, my promotions. There was a gentleman from one of the neighborhood associations in St. Mary's. He represented St. Mary's University. His name is Rick Idar, a dear friend who's now passed on. And he calls me, and I'm surprised that he's calling me because he was working with my opponent. And he says, Elena, I want to come help you. I said, okay, I'm very flattered. And he says, I've been over there at Noel's campaign every day, and all they talk about is you're gay. They are obsessed with you're gay. Yeah. I says, and I'm tired of it. And now I have the worst gaydar. You have to be very evident for me to pick you up.
Or you have to basically tell me. Yeah.
And so I have the worst gaydar. And Rick was gay. I didn't know. Okay. And he said, and so he started with me every day, and he's passed on now, but we were constant companions.
Yeah.
And so we had agreed to a neighborhood meeting that turned into several neighborhoods coming together. And this was right just before Election Day, a little bit, maybe a week before. So we were at a big room at St. Mary's University, and it was full, and it was standing room only. I mean, standing room only.
Yeah.
We had a moderator, and what we all agreed to was anyone could ask questions, and they were handing out note cards. Okay, you write your question, they pick them up, and they would be moderated in the back to make sure there was no punches being made. That everything was above board, and everything we would both answer the same questions.
Right.
So they gave the moderator questions. Everything was rolling well. And then all of a sudden he goes, well, I don't have any more questions. And we seem to have a little bit of time. Does anyone have a question? He opened it up. The plants were in the first row. 3 people get up and start shouting, are you gay? And the whole place erupted. People were standing up, they were shouting, etc. And God, I don't know where this man was in the back. Above all this noise, there was a voice from somewhere that said, it should not matter.
Yeah.
And I just rose because it was all chaos at this point. I rose and I just said with my hands and said, sit down, let's sit down. And I said, I've been asked a question, and I'm going to answer it. Yes. My mother, I'm going to choke up here again. My parents raised their 3 children to be open and honest. And those are the values that are sorely needed at City Hall. That's what the lady had written to me. So now I got to use it. And the guy next to me, he was going, I'm feeling discriminated. And I'm looking at him like, what are you thinking, dude? Yeah. And so we wait. Election day happens. We're still block walking and everything. And on election night, I won.
Oh,
I won.
Goodness. Yeah.
And so the next week, we were going to be sworn in at City Hall. So it was myself, District 6, myself, and the mayor's race. It was Phil Harberger. He won his race. He had a runoff.
Yeah.
So that morning, the Express News, front cover, bold letters in the front, lesbian wins city council seat. And one little side note, the lady that wrote it in her story, she said basically that gay was a choice. There's a great art icon in our community, Dan Graney, who I later found out, but she told me, she said, I got a call from Dan Graney and was basically schooled that it is not a choice and everything. Says, I need to apologize. And for all the listeners, if you don't know Dan Graney, he has ALS, so please say a prayer. But he is, his mind is there and everything. But he served our community in so many ways. He's a good man, and a great soul, and we still have him. God bless, we still have him.
Yeah.
So here I am, going at City Hall, and Linda Harburger sees me and comes straight to me, and she's looking at me. She says, "Elena, I am so mad at the Express News for what they did to you." And I said, "Doesn't matter, Linda. It's out there now. I never hid anything. It's out there."
Yeah.
So when I went up to greet the mayor before our swearing in, again, everyone's taller than I, and he puts his hands on my shoulders, and he's so much taller than I. He's looking down, and I'm looking up, and he goes, "Elena, are you okay?" And I said, "Sir, I didn't hide anything. I came to do some good service. Let's do some good things together."
Yeah.
He says, "All right, let's do it." So that day, the three of us got to raise our hands. And that's the moment I became the Honorable City Councilwoman, Elena Guajardo.
Oh my gosh.
And so what I want to tell you now is to be at the table. Now that I'm at the table, what did it get us? So here's the main points. The service part, and I did good. My 2 years, because they came after me, so I didn't get my second term. But what did I did in 2 years? They could not say anything negative. The money I got to brought in, and the work that we got finished, because at that point we were only being paid $20 a meeting to be a city council person. So most of the people had to still work.
Yeah.
I was retired, so I was full-time every day. They had never had a city council person like that before.
Yeah.
The staff didn't know what to do with me.
Yeah.
Like, she's coming in every day, you know. And so they took note, and I was asking questions, and it's like, "Why is this?" And I had a whiteboard, and every project that had been not finished in District 7, it was like, "When are we moving the dirt? When are we moving the dirt?" You know, and things were getting done because I was there.
Yeah.
And so the first order of business, once we all convened as a council, was the mayor we had an interim city manager. So they were looking for a new city manager, a permanent city manager. The mayor liked a woman called Cheryl Scully, brought her into San Antonio. It was a hidden meeting. No one knew about it. But individually, we all got to meet her and ask anything. So I had my time with Cheryl, and I said, "These are some of the issues we have in the district," and introduced who I was, and it said, "Now, I'm lesbian. Is that going to be a problem working with me?" And not a problem. I said, "Thank you, ma'am. That's all I need to know." So once she got, she was now our city manager. One of her first orders of business is to find a new police chief. And she came to a short list, and she wanted community voices to be involved, just conversations. And so she came to me and she said, "Councilwoman, I need a list of people from your community so they could be part of the process if invited." So we were now at the table. So I gave her a list of people I knew that I thought would be conscientious and take it seriously. And she did ask them, and they were part of that conversation. So Chief William McManus, who's still our police chief, he won, and we all voted yes on him. He was installed. So now he gets to meet every council person. So when he came to me, he introduced who he was, etc. And I said, "Sir, I do have an ask, because where the strip is and the bars, some of the bar managers, the owners, had come and given me messages that they were having some problems with some of the policing activities." And I told him, I just shared that. And he says, "Okay, you tell me when and where, and I will be there." We had 2 meetings. The first one, he came and he brought the substation that oversees the strip. And they had a very professional meeting with all the bar owners, and they detailed these were the activities happening, and where they didn't, so they had a great conversation. And they said, we'll be back in 2 weeks. And they did. And he says, here's our corrective action. This is what we're going to start implementing. Police, no matter what you think of the police chief, he's been there for so many years. He's always been an advocate to our neighborhood, to our community. Stonewall Democrats asked me, can you bring him? Will you ask him to come speak to us? Again, he said, yes. Tell me the date and time. He was there. Standing room only. We'd never had a police chief come talk to us.
Yeah.
There was a social worker named Travis. He's now passed on. He says, I really want to ask him a question. It seems that when at the police academy, when they had their training for their police cadets, when it came to diversity training, there was a white, I'm saying white, but she's not gay. A white, non-gay woman giving the training on gay.
Okay.
I could have said that better in my mind later, but it was like, that's what it came out.
Yeah.
She's a white woman, she's not gay, and she's giving the training on being gay, what it is to be gay. And so
that's very interesting.
And so Travis raised his hand and said more eloquently than I just did what the problem was. And the chief said, sir, I'm going to give you my card. You call me. That began the opening. And that part of the section of the cadet training changed specifically. And members of our community and even transgendered members of the community were there to change that part of the training for the diversity part. There was another time in a quiet moment that Cheryl, the city manager, came up to me and she just looked at me and she said, Elena, is there something you want? It took me a moment to figure out what she was asking. And then it dawned on me what she's asking. And I said, Cheryl, in the state of Texas, you can be fired at any moment just because you're gay. She said, really? I said, yes, ma'am. She says, then that's where we start. I said, yes, ma'am. So quietly, because she could do it. Basically, it's what you would call executive action. She took, for all city employees at that time, she made sure that the non-discrimination clause for the city employees, that sexual orientation was it was going to be taken seriously. And she did that with no fanfare, but she did it. So those are some of my top stories, like to be at the table. I will always remember there was one conversation. I had neighborhood meetings once a month with all the neighborhoods and talked about what was happening, etc. And there was one gentleman that said after the meeting, says, can I call you? I said, sure. I said, here's my number. You know my number. And he called me at the office and we spoke for an hour. And basically he said his son came back from college and he told him he was gay. And he's telling me the conversation that he had with his son. And at the end of the hour, I said, can't remember his name. I said, sir, you did the most genuine, the most compassionate gift to your son. Because one, you heard him. He was authentic. And you still loved him. I said, at that time for me, and what I saw in our community was there were two major losses when you came out. One was your family, maybe friends, but your family. And the second was your church. We've come a long way. But in 2005 to 2006, that's what I felt. That's what I saw. So I will always remember that he had someone to go talk to. So my term ended in 2007, and it took 13 years later before Judge Rosie Speedland Gonzalez, former guest, was sworn in. It took 13 years.
13 years, and that's a long time in between.
And then from her to City Councilman Jalen McKee Rodriguez took 3 more years. So there's only been 3 of us
Yeah.
that have been out and open and have won. And there needs to be more.
Yeah.
And the more we talk about it,
Yeah.
it's like it's a different time.
Yeah.
And you will still wear it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there's more people being sworn in, and they're doing good work. And it's like, I hope that I help. I mean, Jalen, I went to his swearing in, but I went to the evening one, and people were already texting me going, Jalen mentioned you when he was the morning swearing in, because I wrote him, once he won, I found his campaign finance report and saw his address. So I hand wrote a letter to him and gave him just some tidbits of, this is what I see. Yeah. I sat in those chairs. This is what I would, the wisdoms I would pass on to you. Mm-hmm. And he happened to say, and he said it in the evening meeting, because when I went in the evening, the city manager at the time said, Jalen mentioned you. Mm-hmm. and Jalen said it, and he didn't even know what I looked like at the time. Aww. I was in the crowd. Yeah. But he didn't know, and he said, on the shoulders of my former councilwoman. Yeah. No, I'm here. Yeah. And I will share with you, one of my proud moments that day was, here we were 16 years after me. Mm-hmm. When you go into the swearing in, like I brought my parents because I didn't have a significant other. Yeah. I brought my parents, and they get to sit in the front. Mm-hmm. Jalen brought his husband. Mm-hmm. And here were 2 gay men, unafraid, kissed themselves, and then Jalen goes on to his chair, and his partner, his husband, sits in the front. And I thought, look how far we've come in 16 years. I said, that was pride for me, that no one in the audience, they all just cheered and clapped. There was no sneering, no anything, no backlash. Mm-hmm. I thought, this is good.
It's a different day.
This is progress.
Right. Yeah.
And so, who's next?
That is the question. But thank you to someone like you who's really brave. And you're tearing up over here, but I'm like crying over here too, because wow, what a story.
So this is part that you want to know probably.
I don't want to know everything.
So now we're going back on the other journey. Yeah. So that was the public service one.
So many layers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's there's that public servant in you, and then there's also your personal.
So the personal life, because you asked me some of the things you said you wanted to interview me about, is like, I'm single. When I came out, who knows if you could call it even dating. Yeah. Maybe 3 months. It's only been a handful of women. So when I was in office, I met a woman, but it was long distance. Yeah. So after a while, it's like, it was time to say goodbye. Mm-hmm. And so it was like 7 years ago, there was another woman that came into my life. It was like 3 years, but it was a lot of bad decisions. Let me just put it that way. I was so grateful when she got out of the house. Yeah. I was like, and literally it took me 3.5 years. And I woke up and I went, all the toxins are out of my body. It's like, okay, I can breathe again. Yeah. And so I started calling up friends and saying, hey, do you know someone I should meet? Blah, blah, blah. Because it is a hard community to meet anyone. Yeah, yeah. It still is. I mean, no matter you've talked about in one of your other podcasts, or was it easier then than now and everything? Mm-hmm. Well, it's not the easiest city, because it's not an easy city to meet. Mm-hmm. And so called some of my friends, and Anna and Kathy. Yes. They were some of my friends, and I called them and said, hey, we just met up with this meetup group, and there's these great ladies. So I went on the phone, found it, and there was an event near my office on a Friday. So I met them. Yeah. That's where I met Jackie. And so now I've been part of the group for 30-something years. Yeah. And I would just be honest about it. I don't think I'm so picky. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's not. It's very rare that a woman catches my eye. Yeah. Let me just put it that way. Yeah. And sometimes there's probably only been like 3 women that's caught my eye, and then after a while, it's like, where did they go? I don't see them. Where'd they go?
They're gone.
And
Yeah.
so one just recently came up,
Uh-huh.
and I got to sit next to her in an event, and I told her I really wanted to meet you.
Yeah.
And then it's like 2 days later, it was at Jackie's, and there was an empty chair finally. She got there before I did. It was in Jackie's backyard thing. And I got to sit next to her, and I said, I really want to get to know you. And I gave her my business card, or card. And I said, hey, Good Friday's coming. I'm going to be off. Maybe you're going to be off. Let's have
do
coffee.
something. Yeah.
And, well, she never called, so it doesn't matter. But I tried. I tried. That's the thing. I tried. For a shy person, I tried. I tried. And so I wanted to read you a prayer.
Okay.
I believe in prayer.
Yes.
So I'm still looking for her.
Yeah.
But I'm waiting for the universe to present me with the woman that answers this prayer.
Okay.
And it says, I say this every day. It says, Dear God, I feel an empty space within me, a place where I would so love to love. I know that if my beloved came here, I would adore and cherish, honor, and serve her. Please give me the opportunity to expand my heart, into the life of another in the holiest way, the most beautiful way, the most intimate way, if that serves your purpose. For I would learn the secrets of love and use what I learned to grace the life of another. What a marvelous possibility, Lord, that such a measure would be placed in my hand. Please do this. I will try my best. I'm waiting for that woman to answer this prayer.
My gosh. I will pray that prayer for you now. We're in this together now.
We're in this together. So that's been my story.
Oh my gosh.
Whew. And
I'm going to take a moment because, oh my goodness. Wow. What a wonderful story.
That politics can be negative. As I would do some teachings after. And I said, I got to see the best of it because that's the public service.
Yeah.
But I got to see the underbelly of politics. And that's the maliciousness, the cutthroating.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know there was a king and there was a ring I had to kiss in my district. It was like, I just wanted to serve. But they can never take that back. They can never take that away from me. And honored to do this verbally to you and to your audience. And UTSA Archives called me at some point. She said they want everything. She'd give us everything, their campaign. So it's digitized. So now it's in the archive. And it's like, I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
It's like, how many politicians do they call and say, we want your stuff? I mean, it would have to be like really big names,
Wow.
But it's like, they took my stuff and they said, we're going to digitize it. It's going to be in our archives.
It's a good reference point for anyone who'd be interested. And, exactly, everything's documented from everything and however you started it all the way to the finish line.
I love my district and I just want the best for the city, the whole city.
Yeah.
Because we're all part of the fabric of the city.
Right.
If you have any other thing you want to ask, I'm open.
Well, you pretty much answered everything that I had questions on by just, sharing your story with us. I think the final thing, and this is a question that everybody wants to know, is if you're a kind of taco, what kind of taco would you be?
I would be machacado con huevo with beans on a really good homemade corn tortilla.
The real deal. The good stuff.
The good stuff, yeah.
Why? Is that your favorite one?
It's it reminds me of Mexico. Machacado con huevo.
Yeah.
That's when I traveled in Mexico. It's like, it just reminds me of Mexico.
Yeah.
And everything.
And
everything. So that's my taco. My first taco choice would be that.
Yes, that would be it. Well, thank you for joining us here at the Taco Stand Podcast. I know that our audience and our listeners are very much in awe, just like I am, with the journey you've had. Thank you for being open and sharing everything, the prayer, all of it, the journey. And your bravery. You chose being a lesbian first and then made sure that you came out first and let everybody know. And then second, you're like, I want to be in public office to help others and be at the table so that you could incite change from within and being part of the community, being the first one to be part of it. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
We'll have to guest you in another episode after maybe, doing all these prayers every day that we're praying.
Let's do a follow-up.
Yeah, we'll do a
follow-up on the prayers.
After the prayers and see what happens. Because I'm excited to hear.
Put it out in the universe.
Yes. She's coming.
Yes, I believe it. She's coming. She will be very special, but she's coming.
Yes.
But thank you again. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. The Taco Stand podcast is proudly brought to you by Just As Lesbians, a meetup group based in San Antonio, Texas. Find us and hope to see you in our next event.